Hey everybody, welcome back to Trek into History with this day in history, April 22nd. It is April 22nd, 2024. First and foremost, I am I'm thinking of my sister right now, my stepsister Malia. Today would have been her birthday, and she's been gone for 4 years now, and I miss I miss my sister. I miss calling her or texting her to wish her a happy birthday because she would do the same 4 days later on my birthday. So I'm missing my sister Malia. I love you, sis. Um, a family friend Ryan, his birthday is today too. So no, he's not dead. He's alive and well. So happy birthday to him. He's like a brother to me. I mean, we grew up as family. So I mean, you know, happy birthday, Ryan. And speaking of birthdays, we're going to get into this day in history. We're going to start off with the birthdays. So on this day, April 22nd, um, I'm sorry, sis, that you had to share your birthday with a despot. But, you know, I shared my birthday with one of Hitler's henchmen, so I guess it's par for the course. On this day in 1870, Vladimir Lenin, and if you don't know who Lenin is, he is the namesake of the city of Leningrad. He led the Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian revolt against the Tsar Nicholas II. So he led a revolt against the royal crown, as it were, and had them deposed. Uh, he eventually would take over as the first premier, meaning the first leader of the Soviet Union. He was the first, Stalin was the second. Stalin was his right hand man, Stalin was his underling, Stalin was the guy who basically buried all the bodies. Um, so, yeah, Vladimir Lenin, it was on this day in 1870 that he was born. Um, Not a good man, but moving right along. So, on this day in 1904, J. Robert Oppenheimer would be born. J. Robert Oppenheimer was he was the man responsible, in charge of the Manhattan Project, which was the development of the atom bomb to end the war in World War II. So he was mired in a lot of controversy in his life. He was suspected of being a communist because he had openly supported some communist regime in Spain or something like that. At any rate, it's how he got. So after he had led the team into creating the atom bomb, he would later be deposed politically because of his ideologies, from pursuing further weapons of mass destruction like that, the hydrogen bomb, and so on and so on. So that was J. Robert Oppenheimer. In 1937, Jack Nicholson was born. And if you don't know who Jack Nicholson is, he's first of all, he's an American actor. He was known for playing like sadistic roles or crazy people. Um, Movies that are he's famous for are like The Shining. You know, here's Johnny. Um, he was in A Few Good Men. He played Colonel Nathan Jessup in that movie, um, where he ordered a code red and his code red got a Marine killed, and you know it's actually a good movie. He's also been in some other good stuff. He played the Joker in the first Batman movie from 1989. A lot of good stuff. I mean, um, he's a talented actor, but he's a bit extreme. If anyone has ever watched an LA Lakers basketball game, you might have seen Jack jump out of the courtside seats and run onto the court and shout at the players, shout at the referees, because he's passionate about that. I've heard that they actually had to withdraw his season passes because he's so inflammatory on, at the home games. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, moving right along, in 1864, U.S. Congress had passed the Coinage Act. And what came about of that act is, like, pull out a quarter sometime, and you're going to find that on that quarter, stamped on it, it says, "In God We Trust." And that's what the Coinage Act did. It basically established that "In God We Trust" was going to be imprinted upon our coins. Note the date. It's 1864, right? So the Civil War wouldn't be done for another year, right? There's still another year left of the war. The U.S. Congress, which basically consisted of the North, passes this law. I have a strong suspicion that it probably had a lot to do with saying, "Hey, look, God's on our side, and we're going to win this war." And so, it's like, oftentimes in our nation's history, our leaders will invoke God's name for the purpose of expressing the moral rightness of what it is that we're doing, whether it's right or not. I mean, God must be with us, so who can be against us? But I have a suspicion that that's kind of what that was about. But at any rate, that's what, if you've ever wondered why or how "In God We Trust" ever got printed on our money, well, you can go back to 1864 and the Coinage Act, and at least that explains it on the coins. So, in 1889, by federal decree, white settlers were allowed to enter into Indian Territory. The Indian Territory this time would be what is now known as Oklahoma. What it did was, this decree. So you got to understand that, like, we, the people, the government, the United States government, would displace Native American tribes because the land that they were on was sought after, or it held some form of I'm drawing a blank here, but it was valuable, right? It held value to them. So they would displace them, and they'd kick them off, and they'd move them elsewhere. Well, if you understand the Trail of Tears, which was the Cherokee Indians, it was a long trek. They were displaced but they were relocated to what is now Oklahoma. And so in 1889, the federal government says, "Okay, white settlers, you can just go ahead and move on in there." Well, that displaced the natives and basically forced them to move elsewhere. And it caused a lot of tension between the native tribes and white people. I mean, still to this day, you will have reservations where there's natives who don't particularly like white people because of what the white man has done to their people over the years. Possibly justifiably so. But, I like to think of it this way, is that at some point the hostilities and the animosity has to end, because it wasn't me who did that to you. It wasn't my father who did that to you. It wasn't my grandfather who did that to you. In fact, it wasn't even my great-great-grandfather who did that to you. So at some point we all need to learn how to just, recognize the past for what it is and just move on. So, in 1915, on this day, the German forces would introduce chemical warfare. There was about a 4-mile stretch that the Germans had deployed chlorine gas for the first time. And it was in the second battle of, I'm going to butcher this, Ypres, I think. Ypres, Ypres. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that name, I'm sorry. But it was in that second battle that they deployed gas, chlorine gas, and that's some nasty stuff. So it would mark the first time that chemical warfare was introduced into the battlefield. In 1983, German magazine Stern rocked the world by its announcement of the discovery of 60 volumes of Adolf Hitler's personal diaries. So that was huge news there. On this day, April 22nd, 1994, President Richard Nixon passes away. Richard Nixon was the only U.S. president to resign from office. Some people say he's the only president that's ever been impeached, but that's not true, because Andrew Johnson was actually impeached, and so was Clinton. Impeached doesn't necessarily mean you're kicked out of office. Impeached means you're just brought up on the charges to get kicked out of office. And Andrew Johnson was impeached, but he stayed in office, and then he was basically a puppet for the remainder of his term. Richard Nixon was brought up on impeachment articles, or they were about to impeach him, and then he ended up quitting, so they couldn't actually bring him to trial. And then Clinton was actually impeached, but what saved his bacon was that he rolled out this 700-page document / book, and he said this is the plan to balance the budget to zero. And I remember watching this news conference very carefully, and you have to listen to what he said. And what he said was, if we implement this program, we will have a balanced budget of zero within 7 years. He rolls us out the night before the Senate was to vote on whether or not they were going to vote to remove him from office. And so he rolls us out. Next day they have the vote, and miraculously they all vote to keep him in office because he just saved our economy. The thing is that he never implemented that program. And if he did, it got stopped up by 9/11. I don't recall him ever having, rolled out and said, okay, we're implementing this now. He didn't do that. What he did say was, if we implement this, we'll have a balanced budget of, it'll be to zero. I don't think he ever did. I think he just, it was a smokescreen to get himself to stay in power. That's what I think. But moving right along. In 2004, so 10 years later, 2004, NFL player Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was an NFL football player. He was a rising star. After 9/11, he quit football to go join the Army, and he became a Green Beret, I believe. Definitely special forces of some sort. I can't remember where he was, but he was killed. And at first they said, oh, he was killed by enemy fire, but then it came out later that it was actually, unfortunately, he was killed by friendly fire. And I mean, unfortunately, that does happen in war. It sucks. It's, it's not, it shouldn't be that way, but, that's a casualty of war there. But he was killed in Afghanistan, and he served his country well, and that's what should be celebrated, is that here you actually had a celebrity, someone of celebrity status actually say, yes, I am going to put my money where my mouth is. I am going to go, and I'm going to fight for the ideals of my nation. I'm going to defend my nation. I'm going to He did that. You have a lot of celebrities come out and say, yeah, I'll go fight. Give me a gun. Give me, I'll go out and I'll defend my nation. And then yet, Kid Rock, I never once saw you go to a recruiting station. Pat Tillman did. So you can bluster all you want about, being a patriot, Pat Tillman was a patriot. He did serve his country. He did. He didn't just say, "Oh, give me a gun. I'll go fight the enemy." He actually went down to a recruiting station and he enlisted. And he served his country well. So, and I forgot to put this in there, so I'm backtracking a little bit. On this day, April 22nd, 1970, was the very first Earth Day. Not that I really care about Earth Day. I'm not Mr. Environmental or anything like that, but I thought it was interesting, and so that's why I made a note of it to say that, hey, the very first Earth Day was organized on this day in 1970. That was about 5 years before my time, so I wasn't there to, witness it. So, so that is this day in history, and I hope you enjoyed learning some fun facts about this day. Definitely tune in tomorrow for April 23rd, where we will have a birthday of a famous playwright. I'm going to give you that little hint right now. We'll have the birthday of a famous playwright, and I'll give a shout out to my good buddy Jeff, because it's his birthday tomorrow too. So, with that said, have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Hopefully it's another beautiful, bright, sunny day like it is today. But yeah, we'll see. At any rate, have a good one. Be blessed, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.